Hello everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. If you hear my voice sound groggy, it's because it's early in the morning, but I am very well. Thank you for asking. Yes. I'd like to welcome you all back. If you're my subscribers and regular viewers, welcome back. Always lovely to have you. I look out for you whenever I do a video. Yes, I do. And also, I want to thank you all for subscribing, particularly for sharing as well and giving the video a thumbs up. You have been very nice and kind, and I appreciate it. And I would like to ask you another favor, if you don't mind. Please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up from now on, because you know when you come to 411, you're getting quality stuff. Yes. So please, everyone, go ahead, give the video a thumbs up from now on, and share. It's very important that you share, and you've been doing very nicely. I would love though to see the shares be as high as the thumbs up. Thumbs up are all over 1,000, and the shares may be around 600. So if we can get the shares up to 1,000 as well, we would appreciate that greatly. And we thank you all in advance. Yes, and I know that some of you would like to leave your comments, especially if you're here for the first time. And you're free to give your comments in the comment section. We all appreciate it. And to my St. Mary friend that I met in the taxi, hi, I know you're listening. You told me don't miss any of the program. And so I hope you'll find this video as interesting, at least as interesting as the others before it. Yes. I'm going to pick up all the new friends that we met on the road tour, but in the other video. All right, great. So now that you're all back with me, let's get down to business. Well, it's poll times again. One difference with this Don Anderson poll is that it was commissioned by the RJR Gleaner Group. And so I imagine that I think they would set the questions, they would tell him what it is that they want him, what questions they want him to ask, because he would want some broad-based information. He wouldn't pay a poster to go out there. And the information the RJR group would want to ask, they would believe is of interest to the public in finding out how the public feels about certain things. So they wanted to know about the Privy Council and the CCJ, since that is topical. They also want to know what we think about the Integrity Commission, very interesting. And of course, the usual political information. But those social information, those other information, things that happen during a certain period, you would want to know how the public feels about it. And a poll is one way of finding out. And the Gleaner has been doing this for years and years and years. You remember when we did the video on Don Anderson, when we were trying to find out how he was assessing or interpreting the data that he got from the field about the performance and performance ratings, whether he was adding the averages to the good and very good. And what we found out that he was not. They were never adding the good and very good performance ratings of each leader and parties. They were never adding it to the average. So what the Gleaner was considering was just the good and very good. Poor, very poor, and the average was more or less ignored, because average means neither good nor bad. So if you're going to add it to the good and come with a conclusion, you'd have to add it to the bad and come with another conclusion. You follow what I'm saying? Yes. So the Gleaner never did that. So we did that video on it. Very important. We thought it was at the time, and you found it very interesting and informative. And as always, I thank you. So here we are again, looking now at another Don Anderson poll. Most of the previous ones we were looking at since 2023 were commissioned by the PNP. And the results were looking a little odd. kind of odd as the one that claimed that Wavell Hines had 49% support in Southeast St. Anne when they were trying to manipulate the polls in order to have him there. Well, the poll at the time claimed, this is a Don Anderson poll, that Wavell Hines had 49% support, that Dr. Kenneth Russell had only 9% support of the constituents, and Patricia Duncan Sutherland, she had only 8.5% support. That's what I'm saying now. The man that is going to replace Lisa, Dr. Kenneth Russell, born and grow down there, right, was at 9%. Well, wherever it was that Don Anderson went, evidently it skewed the results. Let's put it as kindly and as mildly as that. So the long and short of it was they had a runoff with the delegates, and Dr. Kenneth Russell, the man who they said had only 9% of the support of the constituents, in spite of their support for Wavell Hines. Wavell Hines was only able to get 31.6% of the votes. Now that vote exposed the Englishman and him capitalist friend, yes, that uppity Negro, Peter Bunting. It exposed them because what it showed was that the support that they had in Southeast St. Anne was no more than 31.6%. Why? Because those councillors, all three of Lisa's councillors plus the caretaker in Moneague, they were all risers. And so we knew they didn't have the support anymore. But we have suspected all the same, that they were setting up Don Anderson. What we suspected happened, and Don, if it's true, blink, blink, so that we can know, right? What we think was happening with these internal polls was that they were sending Don Anderson into certain areas. They know what results that they want. For them, very tricky, Yes, man. Full of tricks. Peter Bunting, Mark Golding, and of course, Dayton Campbell. So, what we believe they were doing was that they were sending the pollster into areas, having sit down and decided what results that they want, and they know where to get that result. They call in Don Anderson and tell him some story. We need to know what them comrades over here, Sophia, we need to know what that PD or that PD opinion is about this or whatever. And the pollster go inside there, and then them use the results now in a different way than they told the pollster that they would. And him can't come out come say nothing. You understand? So we suspected that was what they were doing. We don't necessarily think that Don Anderson was part of it, but we believe he was manipulated and sent into certain areas to get certain information from the area, because of course the party need to know how the people feel, and then them use it how they want to use it. That's what we thought they were doing, and we believe that's how they came up with the results that they want when they want a candidate they support, the risers in positions. And when they want to get rid of people, that's exactly what they do, the opposite. We also believe that that was a sort of test run for what now they want Don Anderson to do on the big stage. They would have manipulated him as well to go into certain areas, right, like in Garrison, to find out how the people in the garrisons are feeling. Yes, you can do that, but you must tell people that you do, right? And most importantly, the polls were supposed to be used as a means of getting the PNP people to fall in line. Remember, most of the opposition that he was getting, Mark Golding, was that him can't win. And you don't make no sense you put somebody there where can't win. That is not what a leader is there to do. The leader is there to lead you to victory, right? And you can't have the party and lead while the leader run on the back. Him can't help you. Then he serves no useful purpose. So the Don Anderson poll, just like what Bunting did in his campaign against Dr. Peter Phillips, they were using the polls, right, to claim now, say Mark Golding can beat Andrew Holness. They never make the mistake when they make with Bunting at all about say him are the better one to lose against Andrew Holness. Them say him can win. And so since him can win, the comrades them decide, say, all right, we're going to work with him. Guy look like he can win now, we're going to work with him. We can win, man. Say we can win. Yeah, man, we can win, man. The poll say we can win. The poll say we can win. Nobody not examining and looking upon the polls good. But the poll say they can win. Bra. Them squeezing out some of our resistance people now. Gone, man, because they think we can win and make we get rid of this wicked and evil Holness government. So the trick that was used and the language that was used, because they're all comrades, them understand them one another, right? The trick that was used was that one, the polls were used to say, them can get rid of Andrew Holness. The second thing that they were doing, they were very busy demonizing Holness. But the problem was they were not demonizing him with the truth. They were trying to demonize him with lies. And 411 in the lying business, because we know the effect that lying have on we melanated people. Yes, we know people are lies at all. A truth, we said. And as long as we have all that is true in our mind, nobody can stop it. But you see, when little lies seep in, it's very debilitating to us. Whereas it is nourishment to them other set of people, and them can progress and go on with things, upon lies and deception. And if you were to feed them with the truth, then pop down like how we pop down with lies. Yes. So being that we know that, we cannot afford to allow the lies to prevail. And it's a white man that's perpetuating it. And him understand things that you may not understand, but him know. That's how they were able to dominate us in the first place. So they told the comrades that Andrew is wicked and evil, and we need to get rid of this wicked and evil government, that the people them must suffer. Everybody are suffering, but not them. It's the most fascinating thing. There's not one suffering comrade. I have never heard a comrade say, me I suffer. Go and read all of the social media posts of all of them that you see. Go in the search area and put in the word suffer and see if you see any of them say they must suffer. It's always about other people, because that's how we comrade done. Yes. We now look for a situation. We are right, but we are look out for the next man, and we want him to all right too. Yes. So that them use pan the comrades them. And so the comrades them don't want this man, this white Englishman, right? Them don't think him is any good for the country, but him better, any PNP will be better than a Labour Party. All them little arguments that them use, and the comrades lap it up, because that is how the comrades them always look at things. So them exploited it. Well, the major plank of them plan was to use it on Anderson Poll, manipulate whatever result him get in the field, to make it look like, say, this Englishman, this unfit, unhealthy Englishman, when a too righted, pickney, and beneficiary of the exploitation of our ancestors, right? In four parents on his mother's side were slave owners in this country. From them in this country at all, them a slave owner. From them had any interest in this country at all, them had to participate in slavery. Even if them had did pastors, because then they weren't slaves too. That's just how it was. Right? And this is the man, a man who never had a Jamaican passport until he was 46 years old. I travel up and down on a British passport that his parents gave him. Never thought of himself as a Jamaican. Never wanted to think of himself as Jamaican. But he wanted to live and work here. So he lived and worked here with a British passport, and he paid for a stamp called an unconditional landing permit. That's what he was using in his British passport to travel in and out of Jamaica. But him see a little opportunity to make some money, as they did before with DB and G, right? When the PNP was in office in the 90s, getting all kind of government deals, contracts, right? To sell securities on behalf of the government, bonds and so on, among other things, right? Them see an opportunity to make some money. So he was prepared to sacrifice his Britishness and go and apply for a Jamaican passport because, according to him, he has a Jamaican birth certificate. All of this talk about being born in Jamaica and him a Jamaican and all this, with all of that chat, and him a talk patois when him see you like him think you don't understand good English. With all of that, he never saw any reason to get a Jamaican passport, although him claim him have a Jamaican birth certificate. But no, him a born Jamaican, and we are one of you, and him a talk about our language where we develop. But him never see any reason why him should want to identify with us, despite the fact too that him have a Jamaican wife, a black woman, a mixed woman, right? Married to one of them slave picnic them. Despite all of that, despite him a come talk about now all the things that him a talk about, I and all them something, him still never seek to have a Jamaican passport. Him never wanted to be associated with the island. He wanted to be British and associated with the king. That him now will tell you say we need to get rid of. Him don't mean it. With all of that, they were trying to use this Don Anderson poll to hoodwink the comrades in thinking that him have a chance where Peter Phillips never have, because of course they sabotaged him. And they think that this is the man now who can beat Andrew Holness. That is what they want the comrades to believe. And the Don Anderson poll was what was used to accomplish that. And despite the fact that common sense is glaring and showing them that Portia lost to this man, Dr. Peter Phillips lost a whole lot of votes because of the sabotage, of course, to Andrew Holness. They now want the comrades to believe, and they surely did believe, those who were foolish enough to do so, that Mark Golding now is a man who can bring it all together and beat Andrew Holness. That people in Jamaica was going to vote for this white Englishman. After the experience with Eddie Seaga, there were a lot of people in this country, who had said that Eddie would never see inside a Jamaica house except as a visitor. And they were not prepared to put another white man in Jamaica house. And them now coming, this white man I try to pretend saying black. I talk about our ancestors and the struggles of our ancestors. The struggle of our ancestors to bring about freedom that we enjoy today. That evil and wicked and fool man. And him a try to talk the patois. Him only sound like a tourist a try a thing. And then also when we laugh after him. And laugh for him sound funny. And the little fool dance, the man don't have no rhythm. For as our people in Kemet would say, where they had the pyramids, that these white people are people without souls. Not a rhythm. That was the number that they were playing on the comrades. And so this sense of unity that they were forging, we all know that it was not genuine. We know that our comrades never supported him. Those who said them never support him from the beginning still continue not to support him, period. Because they knew, first of all, he's a capitalist, right? He's also the one who was part of the sabotage that caused the PNP to be in opposition in the first place. Sabotage the party and them leader because they wanted to take over and they never wanted to wait. And this was war, and they believe that sabotage is part of war, and that it's a necessary thing if they are to achieve what they wanted to achieve. And then they were found out, and some of us decide we now support them, and the vast majority in the party now support them either, and not working with them, but them still a member of them party. Then now left it give them. That's just the stark reality. So more or less, this so-called unity that you see on stage where everybody are talking about Mark Walling going to be the next Prime Minister of Jamaica. As if he needs to be convinced that he can be next Prime Minister of Jamaica. All of that was a sham, necessary in order to get themselves re-elected, because people will not vote for a party that is not united. And so they came up with this plan. But it was a fragile plan. It was a stupid plan, but they had nothing else to go on. The protests are foreign that these risers organized with agents abroad and promised them or give them Senate seat. Yes. And so they put a little hodgepodge group together and the whole thing popped down. Thanks to Karen and all of us and Mr. Vegas, who went on the ground, spending more money on the ground and mash it down. We always have to love Mr. Vegas, though, you know, him a poster guy now, you know, man. Yeah, man, we love Mr. Vegas. Patriot. Expose them. And we on the social media finish them off. That was what they did. But there was nothing else for them to do because they have a lame duck of a leader that was going nowhere. And the polls as a strategy was always weak, just as it proved to have been weak when Peter Bunting was attempting to use the polls to move himself from 3% into a challenging position where he could beat him leader. Dr. Phillips used the polls to claim that if the comrades put him there, yes, he will lose to Andrew Holness, but he would do a much better job at losing. And if they keep Peter Phillips would have been way behind and the party would lose badly. That was his strategy, and it went on until Dr. Phillips put out one source of vote, one poll. Listen to me, my people. Bunting was running several polls to pay up money for polls to go around the island and talk about, say, him would be the better loser to Andrew Holness. Right? And Dr. Peter Phillips had one poll that was done by Bill Johnson. The late Bill Johnson did that poll, and it said that it was Dr. Peter Phillips who had a chance because they had Holness at 34% rating, and Dr. Peter Phillips was actually at 32. As a matter of fact, the findings of the Bill Johnson poll showed that had the comrades been foolish enough to change to Peter Bunting, the party would have lost worse. Because according to the responses in this poll, had Peter Bunting been the leader of the opposition and president of the PNP, the number of undecided voters increased, right? Those who said they would not vote, more of them said they wouldn't vote. 1% more, 2% more said that they would support Holness, and Bunting's support was at 27%. In other words, had the comrades been foolish enough to switch to Peter Bunting, the PNP would not have had a chance. But with Dr. Peter Phillips, they were prepared to support him. And when Dr. Peter Phillips put out the Bill Johnson poll, showing the opposite of what it was that Don Anderson was saying in the Peter Bunting Commission polls, then the whole thing unraveled. And that was the end of Peter Bunting's ambition. He managed to lose only by 76 votes, but he lost and was not satisfied. And they still think they stand a chance to take over the leadership of the People's National Party. But they had to make sure that Peter Phillips did not win the election. And for Peter Phillips not to win the election, they used their money to undermine the party and run an election day sabotage campaign. They tried their best to ensure that the candidates that supported Peter Phillips lost, and they were hoping that all 15 of them would have won. But they did not. Only 2 of them survived, Angela Brownberg and Mark Golding. The comrades out there don't know nothing about no damn risers. They know about Michael Manley, Norman Manley, PJ, and Portia, and the PNP, and them a comrade. So when they were out there with them rise paraphernalia, must say test out them electioneering skills, them lost them seats, including Peter Bunting. And so we are now where we are. Gone back to the same old failed thing, using the polls. Must think say Andrew wouldn't notice what Peter Phillips did too. And so Andrew bided him time because Andrew don't want him to go away, you know. Yes, him illegal now with Parliament, but they want him there. And so they bided them time, and now they go put out a poll. The same strategy that Peter Phillips used. Only thing is we don't know who conducted the poll, but we know the poll was conducted 2025 January. But the results is showing the opposite of what it was Don Anderson was saying. Instead of Mark Golding and the PNP leading the Holness administration, it is the JLP that poll said was leading. And do you know what is fascinating? What is fascinating is how easily the comrades believe the poll, even though them said fake. Because believe it or not, that poll began the unraveling of the appearance of unity within the party, within the PNP. Yes, because it's one thing to believe something that is not true, but when the truth is staring you in the face, when you're down on the ground and you see what is happening, and you see the policies that the government is putting in place, and you know you're Jamaican people, you know that those polls that Don Anderson was putting out was not true, but you run with the program. You say, yeah, man, a true poll, and yeah, man, we are going to win. Because you believe you want to what? Speak it into the atmosphere and it will happen. But when the poll, the first one was put out by the Labour Party, the whole thing started to unravel and the discontent surfaced. The Blue Dot poll cemented it, but the Don Anderson poll has put it all to rest. And so when Dennis Gordon came on the platform and told the comrades that all is not well in some of those seats, at least him telling him leader, but me don't know why him choose that event to tell the leader. So no, it was the comrades and us in the resistance and all of Jamaica wanted to know that all is not well in some of those constituencies in Region 3, which is Kingston and St. Andrew. And him left it at that, right? Never want to go no further. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to go and listen to what TVJ said, the result of the Don Anderson poll that Dayton Campbell said, we trust Don Anderson poll. Yes. I'm going to see if I can find him vice or so.
So we trust Don Anderson polls.
What you said, Dayton?
So we trust Don Anderson polls.
Say it again, man, so the whole of Jamaica hear you. And talk loud this time.
So we trust Don Anderson polls. I looked at the poll. We must take out who in there if them can win and put in somebody who can win.
And so say all of us. At any rate, we comrades, right? Thank you, Master Dayton, for your input. We'll chat with you later. But let's now listen to what it was that Nationwide News Network reported after the local government election. Remember, the local government election was held, and then the PNP went and commissioned a poll in April. And we're going to listen now to what that PNP commissioned Don Anderson poll results were.
A poll commissioned by the PNP and published in Tuesday's edition of the Gleaner newspaper shows the opposition party with a sizable lead over the ruling JLP. The poll was conducted by Don Anderson's Market Research Services Limited between April 4 and 12 among persons over the age of 18. It canvassed the views of 1,057 respondents and has a margin of error of plus or minus 3%. It shows that if a general election were called shortly, the PNP would get the support of 36.8% of respondents. The JLP would get the support of 29% of respondents. Those numbers give the PNP a clear lead, 7.8 percentage points, well outside the margin of error. According to the poll, 19.1% of respondents say they are undecided, and 15% say they will not vote. Don Anderson says the PNP continues to enjoy strong support from older persons. Notably, he says the PNP and the JLP are even when it comes to support in the 18 to 24 age group. He also notes that support for the PNP across both genders is stronger than the JLP. Anderson says 44% of respondents say they would vote for the PNP because the party looks after the poor.
Now, at the time when this poll was commissioned, just a few, days, weeks after the local government election, which is the only poll which matters, the general elections, whether of local government or of the parliamentary elections, those are the only polls that matter. So why run a poll so soon after? Well, it coincided with the Englishman's tour of Miami, and it also coincided with the beginning of the protests abroad against the government of Jamaica, right? And they needed some kind of a boost to show that whereas the polls showed that the Labour Party had won the elections, the PNP had the majority in terms of the voter turnout, and they also won 2 more additional seats than the JLP. It really was which party that won the majority of the 13 municipal corporations, which they were once known as parish councils. So it's which party controlled the majority of those 13 parish councils is them win the elections. So the Labour Party won 7, the PNP won 5, that's 12, and 1 was a tie. We are now going to listen now to what the latest Don Anderson poll says. And this poll was commissioned this time around by the RJR Group, and they are supposedly supposed to be independent and not politically affiliated. Therefore, we are invited to believe that the poll results would be a little bit more trustworthy as opposed to one commissioned by either of the political parties.
So we trust Don Anderson polls. Up first this evening, months before a general election is expected, Jamaicans have rated the performance of the governing JLP and the opposition PNP.
The details came in the latest RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll.
Andrea Chisholm has the details.
The governing JLP has been making the rounds, spreading what they call good news about their record of performance. The opposition PNP, on the other hand, has been tracking activities, scrutinizing every major policy decision while openly criticizing the government. So between January 29 and February 13, 1,021 registered voters were asked to rate the performance of the governing JLP. 20% said it was very poor and 17% poor. 33% said it was average, 17% good, and 13% very good. Overall, the JLP had a 37% negative rating and a 30% positive rating.
More persons felt that the performance of the JLP was negative than who said it was positive.
Did you hear what Don Anderson just said? The poll is showing that 37% of the respondents viewed the Labour Party negatively, while 30% had a positive view. And Don Anderson took the trouble to point out to the viewers that more people view the Labour Party negatively than positively. Let's listen to him again.
More persons felt that the performance of the JLP was negative than who said it was positive.
So you heard that. Here is a positive move, 37% negative, 30% positive, and he's attempting to make the poll results sound in a negative way. Let us see now, as we listen, how he treated the results of the PNP. And remember, it's 37% negative, 30 positive, so the difference is only 7%. I want you to listen now to how he presented the PNP numbers, or in any event, had he presented the PNP numbers in the very same way, that the persons who felt that the PNP's performance were more negative than those who said that the performance were positive, had he presented that way, then it would have been the RGR editors who would have not chosen to put that in. But we don't believe that was the case. We believe that the editors were reporting just as he spoke. So I want you to pay very close attention to when he got to the PNP numbers, how he presented those figures.
Some more persons felt that the performance of the JLP was negative than who said it was positive.
Respondents were also asked to rate the performance of the opposition PNP. 19% said it was very poor and 27% poor. 37% said it was average, 10% good, and 8% very good. Overall, the PNP had a 46% negative rating and an 18% positive rating.
So let me butt in here a bit to do our little analysis. So as you can see, this Don Anderson poll, which was commissioned by RGR Gleaner Group, is saying that for the Jamaica Labour Party, the negative persons who viewed the party negatively was at 37%, while those of the respondents who viewed the People's National Party negatively was at 46%. So that means that 9% more of those who were surveyed had a negative view of the performance of the PNP. When it comes to the positive now, the total of the good and very good, only 18% of those surveyed thought the People's National Party's performance was good or very good, while 30% of the respondents believed the Labour Party's performance was good and very good. That's a difference of 12%. Now, if we were to do a further analysis of what these results are showing, when we total up the 18% who believe the PNP is doing well and the 30% who believe the Labour Party is doing well, we get a total of 48%. So what we want to do now is take that total of 48% and we're trying to find out now just how much of the respondents said either party was doing well. What percentage of all the people who thinks that both parties are doing well, right? So that's what we're taking in consideration. Just those who said the parties are doing well, we need to know what percentage said PNP and what percentage said JLP. Follow? Yes. And when you take the fact that 30% out of that 48 said the Labour Party is doing well, that calculated to 62.5% of those responding who said the Labour Party was doing a good and very good job. 62.5%, which now means that 37.5% of those responded said that they believe the PNP is doing a good and very good job. This is the split, and this is how you analyze these figures. You follow? Yes. So let us go now and rejoin Don Anderson in his analysis. Let's hear how he put these figures.
Overall, the PNP had a 46% negative rating and an 18% positive rating.
The net difference is 28 points. All right. And that's significant in terms of a differential for one party vis-a-vis the other.
How did he choose to interpret this data? Let's hear what he said again.
The net difference is 28 points. All right. And that's significant in terms of a differential for one party vis-a-vis the other.
So he's talking about a net difference. What net difference is he talking about that he says that is 28% spread? He is talking about the number of persons who responded negatively compared to those who responded positively to the performance of the PNP. And he's saying when you take away the 18% who said they did a very good job and good job from those who have a negative view that they did a poor and very poor job, he said that there's a 28% spread. While for the JLP, whose figure stood at 30%, who thought they were doing a good and very good job, and 37% who said they're doing a poor and very poor job. It's only 7% difference. That was what he would have been arguing at that point. What's the significance of this? Yes, you can get some significance from it. The fact is that far more people are viewing the PNP's performance negatively. At 28% more people is 28% more than the 18%. You follow? That's what his argument was. And fewer people were looking at the Labour Party in terms of the difference between those who had a positive and negative view. Only few more had a negative view of the party than those who had positive views. That was basically his argument.
Pollster Don Anderson analyzed the results.
So we had a significant differential in terms of negative vis-a-vis positive as far as the People's National Party is concerned. The government, you have a lot more against which you can measure. People's National Party, as the opposition, there are kind of nebulous targets. And therefore you're rating them on the basis of what they say, perhaps countering what the government has done or said. So that's the kind of environment in which those two questions were asked.
So having pointed out that the difference between those who view the PNP in a positive way and those who view the party in a negative way had a significant spread, a whole heap more people think the party is doing a bad job, is basically what he's pointing out. And then he went on with a confused statement. Let me see if I can unravel it for you. I believe what he's saying is that the role of the government is to do the job, while the opposition, their job is simply to oppose or to point out to people what the government don't want the people to know. So for them, job is just to talk. They have nothing doing. And in that case, if people are viewing them in this negative light, then it means that whatever it is they have been saying, and they have been saying things every day, the problem is, and this is my analysis, that despite the fact that they have these large platforms on YouTube, they have much larger platforms than the labor rights. The resistance is next to them. And the labor rights, and boy, may I tell you, them channel now go on good. Despite the fact that the PNP has the support of large platforms on YouTube, TikTok, that is making up a whole heap of noise, putting out the arguments that they want to be put out against the government. And they have people on Twitter doing the same, and they're on television and on their own pages, the different party functionaries, putting out opposition, opposing the government. In spite of all of that, in spite of them dominating the political landscape on YouTube and traditional media, in spite of all of that, it's been heard, but it's not being received by the people. Why? Because largely the vast majority of what is being said is and are a damn lie. And we went out on the road, and may I tell you, we shocked Manchester. We went to Westmoreland. We went to St. James. And me never know so much people are listening to for channels. Comrades and labor rights alike. So they have been hearing from us what the truths are, and they have been receiving them because when we talk, we come with our receipts. We not just walk on a talk. And therefore, what is happening is that the people are viewing them in a negative way. Don't believe them doing a good job at all. And when we hear what the party standing is, then we will learn more. So we wait.
The RJR Gleaner Don Anderson poll has a margin of error of plus or minus 3%.
So there you go. Now, if my memory serves me right, the PNPs commissioned an Anderson poll. They were not putting out the performance ratings. They were putting out the leadership ratings and the party standing and one or two other items, poll results, which suits their narrative for argument's sake, whether the country is moving in the wrong or right direction. Yes. So they were not putting this out, and they must have had the results, right? And they would have had also a comparison as to whether or not the people would vote for PNP led by Mark Golding, Lisa Hanna, or Damian Crawford. And I put out that either. So they have been putting out polls attempting to manipulate public opinion as well as in attempt to unify the party, knowing that at least half the comrades, when them vote, them only voting for somebody that them know can win the election for them. So those poll results were intended to manipulate public opinion. This one now, Don Anderson put out, he got the poll results and tried his best, in my view, to interpret the data in such a way that, according to him, you notice he never said that there were plenty more people who viewed the PNP negative than those who viewed it positively. Instead, he chose a different line of argument, talking about the spread between the positive and negative views, right? That would give a different sounding in the hearing of those persons who were listening to that interview. So I told these people, look, RGR, Gleaner, Mello, JLP, all of you need to make sure you bring in a different pollster. You can't have one pollster doing poll. And this man appears to me, it is my opinion, the way in which he's interpreting the data, that him taking on no money, doing the polls, and then seek to interpret them in such a way to suit, well, the narrative of the PNP. Because if the Labour Party is 12 points ahead, right, then interpret the fact that it is 12 points ahead. When you have the Labour Party ahead of the PNP by 12 points, and you're going to say that the way in which people should look at it is that more people have a negative view of the Labour Party than they have a positive view. And yet you know, say the same thing about the PNP. Far more people have a negative view of the PNP than they do a positive view. And that don't look good, especially when all the party has to do is talk about what the government is doing, right? And they have been talking. They have been talking and talking and talking, and yet the people have a very negative view of the PNP compared to those who view the party positively. So what is it that accounts for that? When we ask people on the road what they think about Mark Golding, right? One lady, you know what one lady said to us? It was a Labour Party supporter. Let me point that out. But she said him too brawling. Everything him come him a demand and him a demand and demand. Trust me, Jamaican people don't like those things. And worse, you're a white man. I try to lord it over a black man. And therefore it is negatively affecting the party's performance in the eyes of the Jamaican people, the Jamaican voters. Right? Andrew Thief, he have 28 bank account and time come. That's for their message. And it's not being received. People are looking at them very negatively. And that is rather strange. Corruption is what they're talking about, and crime. And still, it's not being received. We are being told that the people them must suffer and the people in the country hungry. Jamaican people don't like them thing there, no. Them don't like them rather go out in bed hungry. They go talk what go on at them family and you are come ball out tell everybody how the people in the country hungry. Hmm? And you think so you are going to get big ratings for that? You ever in the history of Jamaica hear any politician come out and chat them something there against the other party in power? Hmm? This is a white man from England, a privileged son of the soil, according to him, that don't know nothing about the people of this country. Neither him than his uppity Negro, Peter Bunting. Right? No, not about the people. All of them born with gold spoon in their mouth. And them trying to understand poor people. Them can't. Them only see them as housekeeper and gardeners. That's how them grow and see them. They went to schools where they didn't mix with those people. So it's only when they come into politics and representational politics at the first time them mingle with them poor people there and them don't understand them. That's why them putting out these idiotic messages that they think going to resonate and the people are not receiving it. That is the long and short of it. 46%, that's nearly 50%, people. And look on the party and the performance of the party, which means the spokespersons, all 77 of them, and them leader and Gen Sec, and the messaging that they're putting out into the atmosphere and blogosphere, and all them huge platform talk, all kinds of something, and them not receiving it. Them view the party after all of that performance by those big YouTube platforms. And them are listen. Yes, they are listening. But they're not receiving the message. They're not receiving what they want them to receive. And they are looking at them, all of them, in a negative light. 46% is nearly half of the persons who were interviewed looking at the party in a negative light, telling the pollster that they believe the PNP is doing a poor and very poor job in opposition. And only 18% think they're doing a good and very good job. You understand? So let them continue. As old-time people would say, keep on doing what you're doing, Sammy. Because uno risers can't change course now. Right? Uno can't change course. And all that is going to happen now is uno working very hard to give Mass Andrew him third term. All by uno self. All by uno self. Anyway, folks, let me leave it here for now. I want to thank you all for your support, for liking the video, sharing, subscribing if you have not yet done so, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, you take very good care of yourselves and walk good.